Okay, with John Woodard, we actually won two of his scripts of one, The Holiday Carol and Chance Meetings. The Holiday Carol is I call it the gay, I guess it's the gay Scrooge movie, right? Is that a fair
Yeah,
assessment?
that's pretty spot on.
You walk into a pitch meeting and they're like, what are you pitching? What script you got there, John? I'm like, I got gay Scrooge. And
Yeah, it's
yeah,
yeah.
it's actually a pretty great idea.
Yeah, I'm not the first one with it. When
No?
I came up with the idea, I Googled it. I figured, come on, someone has done it sooner or later. And sure enough, there's already been a movie with the same premise that Scrooge is a bitter, closeted gay man, and Marley was his dead lover. Uh, and then I guess there's also been a stage production as well with the same thing that was done years ago in New York that
What
actually got good reviews.
what makes this one different then? The Holiday Carol.
Mine is different. I purposely didn't watch the other. I don't know anything about the other two.
Okay.
I didn't see the movie or anything. I do know that mine is seems to be a little, I think, more contemporary, uh, and it's more of a coming out story for Scrooge, just as much as you know, all of a sudden having an appreciation for Christmas, and hence I even changed from, a Christmas Carol to a holiday carol because the movie's more inclusive of all the holidays, um, as well.
Very
In
21st
today's
century.
market,
Yeah.
yeah, in today's market, I didn't leave anybody out.
Yeah.
And so on his journey with the three ghosts, he not only comes to appreciate holidays and giving and sharing with friends and family, but himself as a gay man. And so it's also, a coming out story. So
It's learning to love himself, I guess, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly. Because the original Christmas Carol, I always thought it was kind of, like sappy the way it's just like you just get three ghosts torment you, one night, and then the next day you just love Christmas. So I went a little deeper than that and had the journey, had him discover himself, which I think is actually more important.
Yeah, 100%. Like, and I guess but there's been so many versions of A Christmas Carol, right? Where
Yeah.
like, but I think that the nuance of like, why is this guy gonna flip? Why is he gonna change his personality so quickly? Can change whatever with every interpretation, I guess, of the play, I guess, right? So, but you're
Yeah, and there's different storylines that the
yeah.
other versions do not have as far as him coming to those realizations, and there's other twists and turns as far as his relationship
Yeah.
with Marley, where he's literally having, a lover spat with a dead
Ghost.
ghost.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Don't we all though? That's not a common thing.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's a great idea. Very nicely written. But it's like almost like a fan piece where it's like there's a certain structure, but then you're adding your own little kind of texture to it, I guess, right? So it's a
Yeah,
good
definitely.
way. It's a good way. It's a good writing sample that shows that storytelling, right? Through other, and then you're kind of giving it your own kind of spin to it.
Yes, definitely my own spin on it, and it's definitely a version that hasn't been made before.
Yeah.
And like I said, even though I haven't seen the other version, I think it felt like more of a campy gay dramedy,
Yeah.
you know, and and mine is not.
So your next one that you won is Chance Meetings,
Chance meetings, yeah, yeah,
which I
that's
hate that like it reminded me of Serendipity. Do you ever seen that movie?
yeah, exactly, and that's what and it's actually a combination of a lot of things actually that happened to me. Did you read the script? I don't.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. Like it reminded me when I was reading it,
Oh, okay,
it
yeah,
reminded me of, like the
okay.
John
I didn't know how
Cusack,
much
Kate
homework you
Beckinsale.
did. Okay,
Yeah,
well, thanks for getting through it.
yeah,
Uh, yeah, it's a combination of things that happened to me because I live here in LA, and that uh, LA Weekly especially back in the day in in the 80s, it was a very thick magazine with, it's basically a like a futon catalog with tons of dispensaries and every doctor to go in town to write you a prescription for glaucoma.
Yeah.
So, back in the day. And there was a chance meeting section in there. Like if you saw somebody in a grocery store or whatever, and you had like a moment and then you go home mad at you didn't approach that person and say, hey, uh, those ads would be in the paper. I saw you at Gelson's, the Saturday at 2, you were wearing this or whatever. And they also,
But it bordered on creepiness in a sense, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
it did. Well, it's the way we stalked in the 80s.
Yeah.
And and I actually was exchanging letters because we actually used the mail back then with somebody who I hadn't met. It wasn't a chance meeting experience, but it was also like a dating. You could also write. People would write lovely things, whatever, and you'd say, "Hey, I'm single, whatever." And there was a guy that lived under me that was just, man, talking about, he was like, he's probably a Scrooge in his day. He was not a bad looking guy, but just real kind of like mean and nasty all the time. And he was my age. And, I'd be in the kitchen just kind of, one day I was decided to make these cutlets, the chicken where you pound, the chicken.
Yeah.
And so I did the first time I'm ever doing, I started on the first chicken bed and he's banging, the ceiling, downstairs, just not having it. And I was just like, if this happened every night, I could see it, but we're talking one chicken here, bro. And so I'm get a letter from this person I'm corresponding with, and I just go white as a ghost because it was the dude downstairs that
Oh,
was writing me the letters because he said, "Oh, I live at blah blah blah," and I'm like, "Oh my god, it's the guy underneath me."
what are the odds of that?
That's what are the odds?
It's like a soap opera plot. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, so those ideas and those experiences, I finally, I went down and told him who I was. But it was a very interesting thing on character that he was just so unapproachable and not a very nice neighbor. But in these letters, you could see what a loving
Yeah.
person he wanted, or who he wanted to be, or what he wanted in his life. And I always found that fascinating.
So
And
what
so
happened then?
we just, there wasn't any connection there to move forward. And I didn't particularly think it would be a good, juju to try to go out with somebody who lives in the same building with
Yeah.
you. And
I believe they call it shit where you eat. It's not.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And when I was trying to eat, he was banging on the ceiling.
Yeah. He's being on the ceiling. Yeah. But yeah, that's a great story. But it's like, but then he was okay with it then, or if you
Yeah,
saw him
he
in
was
the
fine.
hallways or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, he was fine. Yeah, we never had, there was no bad blood or anything about it. It was just understood.
Gotcha.
It was just understood.
So that was kind of the idea for the script then? Like where did the script come
Yeah,
from?
it was a combination of, because that was so close. That kind of really gave me like the imagery for the scene with the backyard, that Bronson's on the other side, that they
Gotcha.
actually, so that scene with the ivy between them, that was
Yeah.
basically my floor,
Sure.
But
Yeah. It's more
but it was
visual.
romanticizing in
Yeah.
my head that had that really blossomed into a positive experience.
Yeah.
Um, but that's where that imagery really comes from,
Yeah.
the basis of that.
So what happens now then? Like, is it was like I'm assuming there's not LA Weekly doesn't do that anymore. Doesn't
Well, on the
chance
on
meeting.
that's why I did the rewrite. It still exists. It's not in its the glory that it is, was today. And I always thought, actually, if the movie was ever made, that maybe they could run a special thing, with the LA Weekly again, and as
Yeah.
a marketing tool or something, and add it in, or something like that. Yeah, it doesn't exist because everything moved online. So that's why, every time you pick up scripts years back and I go through them again, I have to change just because technology changes.
Or you can just leave it at that era, in that era, I guess, right?
Yeah, or I could make it a dated era, and that would probably be the easiest fix if it was 10 years ago. But I wanted it to be kind of contemporary in the now, so I did change the technology to meet it and made it more of the online thing that it is, because there's still that still exists online. Like there's websites that you can go to.
Sure. I'm
Yeah,
assuming there would be, yeah.
yeah, there is. And so I just connected it through it's still, I guess, more of a fantasy if it's still connected to the LA Weekly version of it. But I do know
Yeah.
that does exist. You can go, there's a couple of websites or something you can say, hey, I saw you at whatever. I think,
Because it's even more prominent now because people don't talk to each other, right?
no, not
Nobody,
at all.
nobody picks anybody up on the at Starbucks anymore or anything like that. That's just like people wait for their because everybody's got their dating apps, right? So they don't have to do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm sure. And interesting enough, you mentioned the Starbucks, the iconic Starbucks in West Hollywood that was across the street from the gym there on Santa Monica Boulevard closed like a year ago, and people were like, it was just iconic. It was just you would see all the people from the gym across the street. It was a social thing.
yeah. So why did they
Yeah,
close then?
who knows? It's Starbucks. Leases go up, they don't want to pay. Back in the day they opened one on every corner, to
Yeah,
edge out the small businesses because they could take the losses in the store, and they were opening up on a corner between a mom and pop, and then they couldn't handle the loss of
yeah.
40% of their foot traffic. They'd go out of business, and then over the years later, then Starbucks would magically close the smaller one.
Yeah, but they would also open up Starbucks, even McDonald's opens up for the advertising because it's in a prime location, right? So
Yeah,
in
just to
terms
say
of
visible.
car traffic is driving down, they see the Starbucks, it's just free advertising with it, but it's a store at the same time, I guess, right? So
Yeah, and
anyways,
yeah.
yeah, no, I'm always curious about like you don't think about things anything closing down. So all right, so okay, so what's your like you got these great scripts that you wrote. Like what are you like proficient? You got this beautiful leather chair that you're sitting in. Do you write in this chair? Like look, you got a is that like a was that like you got the what's that person what's that behind your right shoulder
This
that lady is a creepy lady.
Yeah, the creepy lady. She's actually a
Sorry, I didn't mean to offend. Like maybe she's
no. I got it from a lady I thought was creepy, actually.
okay.
Beautiful story, actually, to that lamp. When I moved in this apartment, there's a large window here, and across the way, there was a woman always sitting in her window, and I thought she was always like staring at me. And in the background was this lamp, and which I thought was I liked it, and I do. And it's some kind of goddess. It's some kind of goddess. And it's so funny, when I turned it on earlier, I was trying to remember the name of it because the woman told me a million times, but she gave it to me like 30 years ago, and I don't remember the name of the goddess.
Yeah.
And so I one day I saw her out front or something, and I said hello, and she complimented, because like at the holidays, I actually my friends actually used to call me Mr. Christmas because I used to really decorate all the windows real big and stuff, and I would always put in a huge one of those 60s aluminum Christmas trees, spinning with all the
Gotcha.
color wheel light and everything. I
Yeah.
always loved that stuff. And she came over and she just told me how much she just loves, when I would decorate the windows for Christmas and stuff. And so we got to know each other, and and one day she needed some help, and I went over there to help her, and I went in her apartment, and I realized it was a studio. So that was the reason why she was always sitting in the window. It's like the lady in the window, so she was always there. And so I was like, oh, that's why she sits in here in front of this. And it's also her like a day bed. She sleeps here. And her name was Virginia, lovely lady. We became very good friends. I'd have her over every year for a couple of dinners and holiday parties and stuff. And one day she came over and told me that she unfortunately was going to move closer to her son because she was in her 90s by this time.
Yeah.
And she asked me if I wanted the lamp because I had complimented it, in the past. And she said she didn't have room for it. And she told me the story of the goddess that I've forgotten because, I'm not far behind.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so I took the lamp and I think of her all the time, and I love it.
See, you're a storyteller. That's a great story. I brought up this little random thing, and then you just told this great story about that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, most
So
of the things in this house are small little things that have a story connected. And those are the things I like to have around instead of just stuff.
things.
So, yeah, so if you see a candy dish, there's a story for that. There's another painting over there. I got a story for that. You know.
So where do you write? Where do you write? Like do you have a routine, or do you get inspired because you're pretty proficient? So you're always like, I'm just curious, like what's your kind of structure for writing?
Um, I run hot and cold. I mean, I went years without writing a new screenplay, for a time. And then during the pandemic, I think that I wrote like three back to back. And then I also went back to the pile and I rewrote the pile,
Oh,
which
got
I do every couple of years. I always pull the pile out and I go through it and I, get new ideas and I tighten it up and pages go, new pages come in. Um, but when I'm in the zone, I usually I sit down around 11 or 12 o'clock after the coffee, and I can be there for, until 10-ish at night. I try to get out around 10 or so to give myself a good hour to 2 hours to sit in the living room and decompress, because then I can't sleep. It does something to my brain that stays too active and I can't sleep after writing. So I try to give myself some downtime to give my brain some rest.
like
But
what do you do?
generally,
Like you just sit, what do you like meditate? Do you
I'll
watch
sit.
TV?
I might turn on the news and catch up on the day's
Mm.
news, um, on that, for a time. And a lot of times I'll just turn it off. I have a usually, but sometimes burn a candle here on the coffee table, and just sit with my thoughts sometimes, and think about the day. Or that's when I open my phone and I go on Facebook and catch up on,
Yeah.
start the feed at the top of the hour, and go through to see what I've missed from friends' posts and stuff like that, to still kind of feel connected to the outside world, so it's general. But when I start a new script, um, I write in the other room. I'm fortunate to have it. There's a decent view of the city, so I kind of have a view of the downtown skyline and over Hollywood. Actually,
Yeah.
my place is kind of above, like the tips of the Man's Chinese Theater, or kind of
Oh,
out there
cool.
in that view. So it's a very Hollywood view, which
Yeah.
is nice, you know. And so when I start a new script, I usually get through about maybe like 3 pages a day. So after 30 days, a month or so, I'll have 90 pages or so. I usually can finish a first draft in that. And then the work begins where, now that you got the blueprint, you go back and just start filling it in and filling it in. And that's what I did with both of these scripts. I got to a point where on this particular contest, uh, I mainly submitted them for the notes because I love the feedback, because there's only so much I can get from myself. So
Yeah.
I sent it out to see what's working, what people are responding to. And then winning was just, the cherry on the sundae, as they say. But I sent in the holiday carol, and I got some good notes back. It wasn't chosen for anything. I got some good other notes from another reader, and really locked into the theme a little bit more. And the dialogue in the first draft was still a little too Dickensy. So I kind of went through and kind of, softened that out and made it
Yeah.
more contemporary. And so that was one of the things that was working against it. And so once I contemporized him more, and got a little bit more even to his PTSD from serving in the war,
Yeah.
uh, brought that a little bit more to fruition. And then I sent in that script, and then out of the blue, the second time around, it was chosen. And the
Oh,
chance meetings caught me off guard completely, because when I sent that one in, I was just getting ready, to be taken to task for that one, and I got even a better review on than I did. I got a higher score on that one than I did on the second draft of the Holiday Carol.
Yeah.
So that I was quite pleased with that. But I tell writers all the time that are in the contest circuit. I tell them, I said, don't don't take it too hard. Or get confused when it wins one contest and doesn't place in another.
Yeah.
I had a screenplay. I won $10,000. I won the Scriptapalooza Grand Prize a couple of years ago, or the script actually that I was working on tonight that I stepped away from to graciously meet you. And it was weird. It was like I just won $10,000 on this contest, and it didn't even place in another.
Yeah.
And so I always tell other writers, you're only as good as your reader. So, on that one, it was a father-son thing. And I said, when I submit the script, I just hope my reader has daddy issues.
Yeah. Well, I want to, because I go and touch on what you said in the blog interview, because you said that I liked what you said, because it's like, obviously, this is what I do. So basically, and it's all subjective. It's like you said, it's all subjective. You never know, right? But you said
Yeah.
in the blog interview that you can literally get the best and worst note from the same reader. So
Oh, yeah.
you go from, yes, why didn't I think of that? That's amazing coverage, right? I love
Yeah.
that feedback. And then the next sentence is like, what? How could you even think like that? And it's
Yeah. I was
like,
like, did you even read the script?
yeah, but that tells you, but like it tells you that it's all subjective, right? And you got to take, and then basically well, one, don't take it personally, and then two, what
Absolutely.
serves your story the best. I always say that. It's like
Uh-huh. And at the end of the day, you have to make the decision. And I had a note.
disregard the rest. Yeah,
I had a note I fought against actually in the screenplay I was just talking about
yeah,
for a long time. And as I kept sending out, getting more notes, sometimes what can break me, or get the light to go on, is when the same note comes up over and over.
yeah,
If you've been fighting that, sooner or later you're going to have to adjust that. So there was a note I kept getting, and I was like, no, I want her to do that. And people were like, I don't like it when she does that. And I just kept getting that note, and I said, finally, I get it. And then sometimes, I'll fight a note, and but it just has to, I'll read the feedback, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. And I just have to let it marinate,
yeah.
and I can just be doing nothing. And then all of a sudden, ping, I was like, I get it. And then I run to the computer and I add it in there, or
I always say that sometimes you get some really like crazy reactions, right, to the feedback. Most people are pretty good. I gotta admit, 95%, everything pretty cool. But when someone writes back like within 20 minutes or an hour of getting the feedback,
are they like lighting their hair on fire?
yeah, it's like you always got to give something. You always got to like you said, you always got to give at least 24 hours, right? Even if you're angry and you could be right, you could be 100% right, and you have the same feeling a day later, right? But at the same time, you can't. Don't. It's like an argument with somebody, right? Don't react.
Yeah,
Just
but I've also written some really good stuff from bad suggestions.
yeah,
So I let it all in. So yeah, because a friend gave me a note and I was just like, oh, I was just like, okay, okay. And I hated the note at all, but it sprung a thought process that brought me to a different conclusion. And then I was putting that down. And
yeah,
so their bad idea ended up giving me a good idea, but I would have never had that idea without that bad input. So I never discount input that I don't agree with. I'll listen to it all, because there's a lot of
yeah.
sneaky little good cookies in there.
Well, it sounds like you're in a good place emotionally, because some people get angry because it's like it's all about boundaries and expectations, right? It's all about like,
Yeah, and sometimes the angry is just basically, when people get angry, I just say you're tired. You just want to be done. And if there's more work to be done, you can't rest. And I think that's why people get
or
defensive. Just want people to love it and move on.
but it's even deeper than that. They're not where they want to be in life, right? So like their anger's got to go somewhere, right? So
Yeah, and and their script is the baby. We put hours and
Yeah,
hours
yeah,
and hours into it.
totally.
So when I get upset when I hear somebody says, "Oh my God, they got $250,000 for that script," I said, "Yeah, and it took them 10 years to write it,
Yeah,
to take note after note after note." I mean, you constantly hear when movies are made, and they were like, 9 out of 10 of them were written 10 years ago. It's just taken them that long to
yeah,
find the right person who connects to the material to give it to the next right person,
yeah.
to snowball down to get it
So
made.
250,000 in 10 years, that's 25,000 a year. You're living in poverty to write the
Yeah.
script, right?
Well,
Yeah,
exactly. And and you maybe not making buck just until then. Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
So you get a a big chunk of change, but you still gotta save for retirement or something, and that
yeah,
might be the only thing. I when I was waiting tables, I remember one of the waiters I worked, he sold a screenplay. It was a teleplay, so but it was still good money for the time. 2 years later, he was back waiting tables.
yeah,
Not that he spent it, but the man had 2 kids.
yeah,
So he still had a family. So he took a year off to bask in it, and you know he went from waiting tables to I was waiting on him, uh, sweet talking, taking people out to lunch, trying to get the next one made.
yeah.
He was doing that time. He switched up his game. I admired that. But a year later, he was like, "Okay, it's time to go back to work." And he had a good relationship with the place that we worked at, so he was hired back up in a jiffy and back on the floor.
Well, it's
Still
a good,
happy. With him.
that's a good moral lesson to never burn your bridges, right? So,
It is.
yeah,
It is. And also, I tell people, I met somebody. I had won a contest and went to like the festival or whatever, and the other guy that won um, a different, another screenplay contest, and he was really full of himself. And I insulted him because I made a comment like, well, it is what it is, but don't get too excited. And he was kind of like thinking I was kind of like raining on his parade. And I was like, yeah, don't get too excited. This doesn't mean, your life isn't going to turn over just because you won a contest. There's still work to be done,
yeah,
you know. And, once again, even with my Scriptapalooza, they were sending it out. I had some inquiries, never went anywhere.
yeah,
Uh, so, and also, and keep writing. I said, so don't, keep, if this is what this is, winning a contest, it's great confirmation that you're onto something, that you have ability to write, you have an ability to tell a story. Well,
yeah,
keep telling stories. If this is what you want to do, you can't have a career on one screenplay. Keep writing and keep writing. So that's what I do. And my pile is going up. I keep entering almost everything on the pile. I think everything that I have on my pile that I have entered into a screenplay contest has either won, placed, or showed.
yeah,
That gave me the confidence to know that I have some ability to write, you know, uh, uh, to make a living at it. That's still, yet to be seen.
yeah.
But many, many years ago, a friend of mine wrote a screenplay. He sold a screenplay to, I think it was like Tom Cruise's company.
Okay.
And so that started off a feeding frenzy. People were like, oh, who's this hot new writer? And he ended up, excuse me, he ended up selling immediately like the next 3, 4 scripts on his desk to people that just wanted to buy from the guy that
Sure.
sold, and he was selling them at like $1 million a pop. And this,
Yeah,
I think this was like literally 20, 25, 30 years ago,
yeah,
where $4 million was something where one would buy you the house, a nice house in this town, and 3 to sit on, where today, that ain't the case. Uh,
yeah.
but he had a library. And to this day, none of them were made.
Oh, really, eh?
Yeah, none of them were made. I've talked to many people. Another woman I know I talked to years ago. I talked to um, last year. Uh, she sold a $1 million script. It's never been made.
Yeah, it's a crazy world. It's crazy
It
industry.
is. It begs the question: would I rather sell a script for $1 million, or would I rather have one for 100,000 or 50,000, or whatever minimum is,
Yeah,
and have it be made?
yeah.
you know.
For me, that's an easy answer, but
What's your answer? Have it be
50,000 have it made. What are you writing for? What's your legacy about?
Yeah,
What are you
yeah.
wasting your time? Money's money, right? But
Money's money.
yeah, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it's a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned, but
yeah. So so I just I'm just hoping, that the gods smile upon me as they did the other gent that I knew. And, I'll sell that one to start the frenzy on the others. And hopefully, since they have those contest wins attached to them, they're a good product.
that said, everybody's got their own values. Like I didn't mean to jump on you. What would your answer be?
What my answer? My answer would be
Yeah,
most likely to have it made.
yeah,
To have it made, to have that feeling of accomplishment and see it on the screen,
yeah,
create those jobs, meet those people, and then have faith that one will lead to the second.
yeah.
But
Yeah, exactly. But then at the same time, somebody, has three kids and they're in debt and they have student loans, all that stuff. And I get it. It's just like, take the $1 million and clear everything off, right? Take care of your kids. So yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I
yeah,
get it.
I think we honestly never know until it actually happens.
Exactly. Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
The circumstance, right? Yeah,
yeah. So I think yeah, I sit on the fence on it, but creatively, I want to say I'd get it made.
yeah, exactly. All right, John, appreciate your time. You're a wonderful storyteller. I appreciate your conversation. And yeah,
Thank you.
well, I'm
I
sure let's
appreciate
keep
your
in touch.
positive.
I wish you the best of luck with your scripts. I think that you're a very good writer. That's for sure,
Thank you.
100%.
I
So
I I definitely appreciate that. I'm glad, yeah, that you wrote them. It's flattering. Thank you.
yeah, because the people I don't read like we have a committee of people and then all of a sudden if it places I like to take a look at things and then sometimes you read the first 10 pages or something like that because you're curious and then sometimes you just start reading because you like reading and then you finish the script and that happens to be with your script. So
Thank you. I appreciate that.
all right, man, let's talk soon. I appreciate it. I wish you the best of luck. Like I said, I think that you're like I love your point of view. I like your mindset. So it's fantastic.
Thank you. Well, I've entered a couple other ones, so we'll see if my name comes across your desk in the future.
All right, let's talk soon then.
Have a good night.